I'll let you start. Hello, friends. Hello, brothers. I thought I'd put that in there since our faithful Justin Jones did not do that. And so I thought I'd throw that in there. Hello, friends. Hello, brothers. Man, I know Masonic Improvement by your stupid original original tag that you always say. Hello, friends. Hello, brothers. And I'm disappointed that you didn't do that. Aren't you disappointed, people? I'm disappointed. No, I like it. I think it's always been a cool way to introduce yourself, and you're in a zone. You're in a zone tonight. You just said, "Hello, brothers. Hello, friends and brothers. We're Justin Jones and Masonic Improvement." When we, I know, right? So you got this pretty cool topic that I think we need to talk about, and we have touched on these things in the past, but not necessarily in the structure. This is the real deal of how it really will go down in your lodge when you start having these conversations. I think this I think this is the real version of how it happens, and not the version we all like to think would happen. William, batter. Right, right. Far from the truth. Far from the truth. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you were a little bit when you were further back, it wasn't as pronounced. It's a little bit better now. You'll want to turn your mic up. Yeah, if you're sitting back, you'll want to turn your mic up a little bit. Well, yeah, it's just like any kind of a process to where you go through, anytime you're in the creative process and you're trying to come up with a plan, it never is perfect first time. If it's perfect the first time, it's going to fail. So it's almost good that that you have to go back, look at it, rehash it, look at it, rehash it to make sure that you touch every base that needs to be covered so that you know it ends up being a solid plan. Yeah, I get you. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, so the preface of our conversation tonight, while you're working on the audio, um, is when that process kind of breaks down the system, when it's the opposite effect, when it's not a good thing, because sometimes it's happened, previously, and then, because one person isn't around,
Yeah.
all
Uh,
of a sudden they want it all,
I made a
right?
few changes. Let me know. Let me know if you can hear
Yeah.
me now, William. Can you hear me now. Of course, there's a little bit of a delay. So, okay, there we go. All right, it was all right. Great. Thank you, William. Appreciate it. So anyway, so I have been talking a bit recently about how we had just increased our dues at one of my lodges, and
We can't see your pretty face. There we go.
this was through no action on my part. This was another brother. He did the math himself. It's the same math that we are always talking about here. Basically, he looked at the operating
The
cost.
correct math. The
Yes.
correct math. Yeah.
Hello, Austin White, one of our new members,
Hey.
one of our new members at Masonic Improvement. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for showing up, brother. But so anyway, so another brother at the lodge was doing the math, crunching the numbers, and he had determined that the dues were way too low. The dues should cover the operating cost. We were far from it, and so he spent 3 months educating the brothers every stated meeting. He was putting together presentations, sharing the presentations, and just sharing it without any kind of forward momentum from his part. If by forward momentum I mean he was not pushing any changes. He was just educating the brothers.
Right.
And
Right.
and
Prepping them for the sale.
yes. And so during the last month, not this month, but the previous month, he gave his last presentation, and another brother made a motion that we go ahead and increase our dues to the rate that he mentioned in his presentation. And keeping in mind that this brother wanted to be careful, he wanted to be sure that everyone was informed. He did not want to make a motion. He did not want to push it. And so this was a motion in a second entirely independent of him. Excuse me one second. And
He has the
I had the flu for the last month. And the motion passed. Pretty much unanimously, it passed. Real quick, Frank Beckendorf. Frank from John Salis, 1408 in Abilene, Texas. Hello, Frank. Appreciate you coming.
Oh, hey.
Do you know Frank?
Yeah.
You know,
Thanks for coming on.
You know Frank?
Everybody knows Frank.
Oh.
I don't know why you don't know Frank.
Frankly, I don't know. So, yeah, classic.
I'm sorry you had to hear that.
Classic.
Yeah. It was a setup. Okay, go ahead.
So we had a brother that was gone during all this time, a very active Mason. He was out of state for business, and Austin White from Knob Creek at Temple. I've been there. We've probably met before then. I went there for some York Rat festivals early this year, last year.
I've been to Knob Creek myself. That's a awesome lodge.
The lodge is awesome, but they also have a very awesome pub right across the street. Did you go to that?
I don't know about the members though. No, just kidding. Just kidding. But, I'm glad you're here, Austin.
But
I'm glad all you guys are here.
Yeah, this is good. But back to the story.
Yeah, you got to finish the story.
Yes, I'll finish.
Or I'm going to start. I'm going to start cutting in.
All right. So anyway, a brother that's been out of town, he came back, and he reached out to the Grand Lodge on his own accord to be sure that everything was done correctly, which of course the brother had done also, and he got a different story. And so the original story, for those, because this was news to me too, but apparently when you're changing your dues, it's not a bylaws change or anything like that. The first time we changed our dues at my lodge a year or two ago, we treated it like a bylaws change. So it was a 3-month process. He reached out to Grand Lodge, and Grand Lodge is like, no, you don't have to treat it like that.
Not anymore.
Because it's you could just vote. And
SOPs, standard operating procedures, just for the folks to know that.
So that's based off what we were informed. That's how we approached it. And so we brought it up that night. We voted on it, and it passed. But this other brother, he reached out to Grand Lodge, and Grand Lodge is like, well, you could do it that way unless it's in your bylaws, in which case you must treat it like a bylaws change. And basically he brought all those information to the brother, in the middle of the stated meeting. And of course, the brother I mean, he was completely unprepared. He had no way to defend anything he was saying because, I mean, he caught him completely off guard. And ultimately, the other brother suggested, he made a motion that any dues increases get pushed until July of next year, which effectively pushes back a dues increase for about 2 years.
That bugs me. Yes.
Yes, and so yeah, completely unnecessary because even if we went about it the wrong way, it's a 3 month process, right? It's
Yeah,
not
it could have been fixed.
it could
Yeah.
have been fixed, and so yeah, there's more to it, and so the whole situation has me a little bit agitated, not necessarily because it's pushing back the dues increase, which is important, but I mean, if we did do it the wrong way, I completely acknowledge we need to go about it the right way. But I mean, we're all brothers that consider ourselves friends at the lodge, and for friends to come into a building like that, and just and in lodge, demand all this information, and then after
Yeah,
lodge, accusing one another of trying to run things behind everybody's back, is extremely frustrating to me.
Well,
I thought we were better than
can
that.
can I say something real quick about that?
Sure.
Just that simple phrase that y'all did something behind everybody's back. The thing that I'd like to say is the brother that came in and went to Grand Lodge on his own accord without talking about any of it with the rest of the brethren ahead of time to try to see why they were doing what they did. He was going behind Grand Lodge, behind the brothers' back.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't. It's very typical that you find when somebody blames somebody for something that really that's their own fault.
Yeah.
It happens a lot in marriages and breaks down marriages. Somebody will say all the time that, somebody's doing something wrong or whatever. And usually it's that person that's continuously causing the dissension because they're bringing up something wrong.
Yeah.
So it's just nitpicking.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with that brother, and that is totally wrong without discussing it with the brothers first and finding out what the true intent of the brother was. Go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry.
Austin White says 100% agree with Right Worshipful Yates. There's some definite projection, and there's some projection, and really the whole thing to me, not to discuss lodge drama, but I mean, let's we all face it, right? So let's just discuss it.
Well, this is the reality. Yeah, this is our reality.
Yeah, it strikes me as though someone else brought it up to him,
right?
And so he's looking into it. I don't know, but what really frustrates me is so the brother brought this up as a very new Mason. He was one of our COVID masters. So like as soon as the quarantine was listed, he got his master's, and so I mean extremely new. And this was like his first big victory, and he wanted to be very careful
and probably pretty smart. Yeah.
And to come back and kind of have to deal with this, and excuse me, and to be completely frank, like and I've said this before, if it wasn't done legitimately, then that would have been a problem. Right? We'll go back and fix that. But by that same token, this was still a 3-month process. Like, we took our time, we educated. I say we, he did it. I really had nothing to do with it. He took his time and educated everybody. The stakeholders of the lodge were present for all those meetings.
Yes.
And they voted to make the change.
They knew what was going on.
Yes, they knew what was going on, and they voted to make the change. The stakeholders. I'm not talking about the majority of the members. I'm talking about the stakeholders. Now, if you are a member of a lodge and you hadn't been there in 6 years, and they vote to raise the dues and you weren't aware of it, that's your own fault. That's completely your own fault. And so if it's something you have to send everybody a letter about, sure, that's fine. We'll do that. But if it's not, and you haven't been there, I mean, we're still looking at a 3-month process, right? So 6 years was a bit of exaggeration. But if you haven't been to your lodge in 3 months,
yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time. And so if
that's not a You may have been there for the last 20 years, but if you haven't been there for 3 months, then you start, falling out of the loop on
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you haven't been there for 3 months and something passes that you completely were uninformed about, that's entirely your own fault. It's entirely your own fault. If you can't, well, that's a whole other thing.
When we're ready to get to the point, I'll explain
Well, go ahead.
what the actual laws are, so that people know.
So I'm interested because this was from the secretary's office at Grand Lodge, where he was told, if it's in your bylaws, the bylaws change, you have to treat it like that.
Right.
So
well, there was a deal a couple of years ago to where if your lodge votes to have standard operating procedures, then things like the dues and the automatic payment of the bills and all that kind of stuff goes. It's kind of like it's retracted from the bylaws and put into the standard operating procedures.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably why Grand Lodge said what they said about, hey, it just takes a vote. Because once you do that, your standard operating procedures, and it should be that way, because your dues and stuff need to fluctuate based on the current times of inflation, whatever. If your rent in your building goes up all of a sudden, you need to be able to change those dues to pay those bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, you have to have a point of reference, and it does go through that process of changing the bylaws to where you have to wait the time period, and you have to inform all the brethren that you're going to vote on creating this SOP. And it sounds like that wasn't done. And
no.
And it's not that, that new Mason's fault. He didn't know. He just assumed that your lodge had stayed up, or that lodge had stayed up with the current, laws of Grand Lodge. Mm-hmm. So now all you got to do is go back and, send out the letters to everybody that's deliverable, because if you look at what's actually deliverable to the Masons in your lodge, oh my gosh, that's the woes of a DDGM. But if you send out the letters to them and say, look, we're going to be discussing this, we're going to be voting on this, we want to separate these SOPs because it's standard operating procedure, not necessarily bylaws. So then after that point, you vote on doing that, which is a smart thing to do. Then you form your SOPs and all that, and then those can be just a simple vote at one meeting, and it's a change. So yeah, so and the fact that he did his due diligence and he actually showed people why the lodge was hurting. Mm-hmm. So now I've expressed the true, fault in what happened, and it still just pisses me off that somebody pushed it off that far. He should have, instead of pushing it off that far, because now it's pushed off that far, period. So now, instead of doing that, you could have just said, okay, let's go back and fix our bylaws with the SOPs like we're supposed to first.
Well, you don't have to have it as an SOP. You could just, because the specific dues are in a specific article. You say, hey, we're just going to remove article whatever. And it's still a 3-month process. But then when you had to change your dues, it's not this nuisance anymore.
Right. But in the SOPs makes it all in a place. It's in its own place.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy. And it was all intended to be easy. And then there's a simple form you just sent to the Grand Secretary that says, we changed it to this, and it's automatically approved. There's no getting permission from Grand Lodge. To change bylaws, you have to have permission of Grand Lodge. Mm-hmm. That's why it's such a long process. To change SOPs, it's not a permission thing. It's a Grand Lodge says, look, that's your business. If you send that to us, then we say, okay, because that's the business of your lodge. So that's why the SOPs are so important to have set up like that. And So I recommend any lodge member that if your lodge is not that way, you need to set it up that way.
Yeah.
Even all the small lodges in my area have been set up that way already.
Yeah. And so, just to be clear, like the
And it might have been just an oversight,
well,
just thinking it was automatic from the past masters or whatever.
yeah, and I'm not faulting the process. The process is what it is, right? But we as Masons, like in the middle of a stated meeting, like if you're really following the rules of order, if you're standing up, you're addressing the worshipful master, and then you sit back down, right?
Right.
You don't stand up and look to the secretary and demand information from him. It's not the place for a discussion. It's not a place to start demanding or requesting information from people. Like
No.
the before the meeting, after the meeting, these are the times to do it. But when secretary or just any brother's just sitting there in the lodge, minding his own business, and you start asking information out of him that is reasonably to assume that he does not have on hand, what are you trying to accomplish?
All you're trying to do is cause dissension. That's all you're doing. It's like when you get in an argument and you say, "Tell me the exact date."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
It was basically stuff like that. It was like, what percentage of endowed members voted on this? Like,
Yeah.
why would you think he knows that right now, on top of his head?
What?
Anyway.
Yeah. Why would anybody know that? Because that's not something you're supposed to track.
Yeah. So Austin White said, I heard similar stories from other places in Texas where a lodge wanted to merge. Members who hadn't showed up in years voted it down twice. We actually had that in one of my districts, and the same thing. Like the lodge, talking about finances. So the lodge owned downstairs and was renting out to the police department. The police department decided they wanted to get their own place, and instead of trying to figure out their finances or anything, they just like, well, we'll just demise. And
wow.
Yeah, it was dumb. Of course, it wasn't. It was.
The sky is falling.
Yeah. And they wanted to demise, and so they sent the letters out, and people that never showed up and voted it down. And so it took twice as long because they went through the whole process again, and finally got it demised. But yeah. No, that lodge needed to demise regardless of their financial.
Right.
It's one of those lodges you go to the stated meeting, you don't get out of there till midnight. It's like, what? I mean, it didn't accomplish anything. So it's just like,
and everybody in the chairs are visitors.
yeah, or members of every other lodge in the district.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just frustration on my part, I guess. But
that you have absolutely every right to be frustrated.
Which is odd because, like I said, I put no work into it.
Right.
It was. But when I left my lodge, and I interrupted you, I apologize, but I want to say this. When I left my lodge in November, I left feeling really proud because they had made the right decision. I was very proud of my lodge, and I talked about it a lot throughout that month. Like if you listen to the episodes from last month, I was extremely proud of my lodge. And I left this Monday feeling extremely disappointed and angry.
Right.
Like, I didn't even stand up.
Well, you have every right to be.
I didn't stand
You're
up.
a member of the lodge.
Yeah, I didn't say anything.
Right.
The reason is because when I start talking about financials, if I go to another lodge to talk about financials, that's fine. But when I'm talking about financials to people that have heard me talk about it for years now, it's a little bit more aggressive. And that's, they'll say you attract more flies with vinegar than you can with honey than you can with vinegar, right? I had nothing but vinegar, so I just kept my mouth shut.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, what disappoints me is that someone would come in and push it out like that. In every instance, what you're describing to me, in every instance of that person's actions was not brotherly, and it was just trying to cause tension in the lodge so he had time to go and politic all of his buddies and change it overall.
Yeah.
That's all it is a big stake in the lodge to create tension when everybody. It's just so sad.
Well, it was frustrating. It's a brother I respect. I still respect him. Not as
Well,
much
I
now.
understand, and
But
we all have those brothers
yeah,
that disappoint us,
I was
and
looking
we
forward to his
look up to
return,
them. Yes,
and I
we
was like,
look
go
up to.
back.
We love them. Yeah, we love them, and then they come in and do something ignorant like that.
Yeah,
And I don't know the brother, so I I say the action is ignorant. I'm not saying the brother is ignorant because he's
yeah,
probably smart, but I just say that doing it in that way is just that's like it's
yeah,
like cat fighting. That's the cat fighting that we're talking about that shouldn't go on.
yeah. So Frank Beckendorf, Brother White, Texas is my Grand Lodge. Merging is always read to individual lodges. I've not heard. Maybe it's always leased to individual. I don't know. I've not heard any merger rejected. Maybe there were. The only problem I've ever had in Texas was my local shrine club chosen way to hold an election. I'm not sure I understand that. But then it also says I heard about it firsthand from several witnesses at stated meetings where it was proposed that one meeting due notice was sent to all members, and then also normally no showed up to shoot it down. Frank says that's not the only reason no shows suddenly appear at meetings. No, it's not the only reason, but if you're talking about
Oh,
something,
I've seen it. I've seen it in political ways too.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, I agree.
When somebody wants to be voted in.
Yeah, we had a lodge in my district, in one of my districts. Not I remember several districts, and very country, and they had a African American guy that wanted to petition, and great guy, like he got his degrees and everything, but I told them, him and the brothers that were trying to push him through, I was like, look, if it comes time to vote on his petition that night, and you see a lot of brothers that you haven't seen before at that meeting, just withdraw your petition silently and bring it to my lodge.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
you know why they're there for. You know why they're there.
Right.
So yeah, I agree.
Right.
I mean, that's not the only reason they show up, but when you start seeing a lot of brothers that haven't normally been there start showing up, there's a reason. There's a reason for it.
And then and if that happens, then you know the culture of the lodge, and you really don't want to be a member of that anyways.
What?
That's for sure.
What are you saying?
I said if you see that happen, then you know the culture of the lodge, and you don't want to be a part of that anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I'd like to share something positive on now that we're speaking of finances. I saw a lodge this past week did an excellent. They finally implemented the square, right? And I'm not advocating any particular financial institution or way of collecting money or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, with my business, I use Venmo and PayPal. But this lodge and many other lodges chose to use the square because that way they can swipe cards in person if they do fundraisers or anything like that. I probably ought to do that, but I haven't yet. So I'm not ready to take that plunge with my business.
Mm-hmm.
But the lodge, the treasurer made a presentation, put it on display with the projector that the lodge has, that the Grand Lodge requires us to have these days. Excellent idea, Grand Lodge. Thank you very much. And if your lodge
those
doesn't
are required
have,
now, huh?
you're required to do the projections on the you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Then help me out because
Oh, you lack for where you
lack for words
on
on the ritual on the charge, not the charge, but the
lecture.
Yeah, the lecture. There you go. So on the lecture, you're supposed to show the displays in text. You're not supposed to just say it from the. I know.
How do you give a walking fellowcraft lecture and do a PowerPoint at the same time?
Go away.
But anyway, just asking for a friend.
Lodges are supposed to have the projector for that reason, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this lodge put together a deal where they showed how the square works and how easy it is to manage it, and they hooked it up to the computer so the lodge could see, and the master stepped down from the east and went over to the treasurer's place and swiped his card and put in a donation of $20 reoccurring every month
Mm-hmm.
to the lodge. That's going to automatically come out of his account, blah, blah, blah. So that just to counter all the hurt that he's feeling right now, I would like to, let you know, Justin, that there's lodges that are doing some good things. And these are lodges that would not, you wouldn't normally think that, because they're deep South Texas lodges. And this is a little country lodge.
Who's feeling hurt? What are you talking about?
No, I'm over your situation.
Oh, no, there's no hurt. I don't feel hurt.
He brought it up.
No. You don't understand.
He brought it up.
You don't understand. I live on caffeine and very little sleep. I don't feel hurt. I feel agitation.
Right.
I'm extremely
Right.
agitated. I'm not hurt.
Agitation and anxiety. I know that feeling well. But anyways, on a positive note, so they did the projection. They showed the lodge how it worked and how easy it is. And man, guys just came out of the woodwork saying, man, I want to put down $10 a month, contributing above and beyond my dues.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working on having the dues set up to where it's a monthly payment.
Yeah.
But first, which I think is genius, they did it as a donation towards the dues, so it's a donation towards the lodge as $10 a month. So now later on, when they set up their dues, they'll still have that $10 a month coming in on top of their dues. But the master stood up, and these aren't rich people, but $20 a month, he just committed $240 above his dues to the lodge.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's $20 a month, it made it an easy, palatable thing. And so if your lodge does not have the items like the square, you can do it on PayPal too.
Yeah.
And there's several different platforms you can do it on. If they don't have that, get it, because the member pays the fees that it costs to do that. So, or they can opt to anyways. And even if they didn't, if it's a donation and it's $10 and it costs $2 to process that $10, it's still $8 a month going to the lodge.
Well, that was originally how we had passed the dues increase, was through Square.
Yeah.
Because we were going to charge. I'll just tell you the number. We weren't going to charge $400 a year. It was going to be $33 a month, basically.
Right.
Which is still,
and that's easy to do.
Yeah, like we didn't pitch it as $400. We pitched it as $33 a month, and nobody bats. I pay more for that for gym membership. No one bats an eye at that.
I can tell you, I eat the steaks that I choose to eat cost more than that in one sitting. So and there's many brothers that do the exact same thing. So
yeah,
just saying, it's not just me.
Austin White says O'Brien's Pub helps with agitation in Temple. So that was the pub I was telling you about. So maybe I just need to go to O'Brien's. I'll be a little less agitated. I'll feel a little better. PayPal and Cash App have some rules with stuff like that, so you have to be careful. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter though. I mean, it's still a benefit. Rules are rules. You got to pay the piper. They're in business to make money. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
The simple fact is that it's another stream of revenue for the lodge, and when you tie up, and I'm not disrespecting whoever said that, but when you tie up the lodge over the little minute details that don't really matter, that's what hurts the lodge. So not those little details.
There was a comment on one one of those little clips that I released that I was telling you about, Dennis. And it was from a
Uh-huh.
brother I have a huge amount of respect for, so I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or anything. But he basically said, with the state of the economy right now and the direction things seem to be going, is it not possibly a bad time to be increasing your dues at your lodge? And my response was, we won't really know how bad it was till years down the road. Right? That's always how it is. That's always how it is.
Yeah.
You don't know how bad it was. Like right now, we're just now looking back at the pandemic, and we're kind of like,
Right.
why do we? That was crazy. Why do we do that?
Right.
It's years down the road. A lot of lodges don't have years down the road, right? And there will always be.
And that's the thing is, if you don't, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There will always be some reason to justify not doing it. That's just how things are, right? There's always some reason
Right.
to justify not doing it. That's all. I didn't want to call the brother out, but I was
Right.
surprised he would ask that, first of all. But I understand why he asked that. But
Well, it's the big argument of the day. That's
yeah. Well, here's the thing, and even if we are falling on hard times and things are just going to get worse, it's getting worse for lodges too. Then, right? And so
right. We still have to pay our bills.
we do. We still have to pay our bills.
Period.
The bills aren't going away, right? And we can't do like we did during the Dust Bowl or Great Depression and just make our dues dirt cheap, because we have more bills than we did back then.
Yeah, and we have less members than we had back then.
Yeah, so we have to be smart about these things. That's all.
Actually, we have the same amount of members, but we do have more bills because we have more buildings.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, there's been study and data, done, and these are, I can't give you the pinpoint, so don't be that brother saying what's the exact number, but there has been data put out there, and it's true that the same number today, we sit at the same number of Masons as we did in 1916, 1917. The same number of Masons.
You talking about
But
percent wise?
no, number wise.
Oh.
Actual number wise. But we have more buildings than we had back then, because we didn't build the big cathedrals until after that. And until the membership started growing and expanding, that's when we started building all these buildings to so that we had room for all these members when we peaked in the 60s, and then we finally started going down. So we still have all the buildings we're trying to support with the same membership that we had in 1917. So, do the math. I mean, it's the decks are stacked against us, and if we look at inflation and we say, okay, let's raise the dues because of inflation, because it cost us more to do our Freemasonry, and then we lose a couple of brothers. Well, that was going to happen eventually anyways,
Mm-hmm.
because eventually people are not going to be able to afford it, and you pay for what you can afford and what you care about. So attrition's going to happen. It's just part of the business. It's called churn in our business of AT&T. I'm going to go just a little bit more, and then I'll let you go to the next thing. So think about your internet, your phone, your communications, right? And there's a certain amount of sales per month that are people buying new product. There's a certain amount of people that drop the company each month and go to the other company, go to the competitor. Every one of us don't focus on here's how much we sold, here's how much we lost. We focus on the churn, because we all know that there's going to be churn as things change in the market. There's just a natural attrition of who will drop out and who will jump in. Some people can afford it and they'll jump in. Some people will drop out because they can't afford it. It's just a natural attrition. So at some point you have to say, it is what it is. We got to pay our bills, so we have to make our bills accordingly. If we lose these members, it's sad. We don't want it to happen, but we have to make sure and pay for our Freemasonry.
So we got a few
Okay,
comments.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's
Go
fine.
ahead.
Frank Beckendorf. So when trying to raise any monetary amount, it's always best to use the least amounts. I learned to selling cars. You don't sell a potential buyer. You don't tell a potential buyer a large sum. You tell them it's $5 a day, and so forth. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's
And that's
exactly.
what Justin did. Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Justin.
$35 a
It's your
month,
story.
$33 a month instead of $400 a year, and that's what
One
got.
dollar a day.
I mean, even if we did $1 a day, even if most
Let
lodges
me
did $1 a
let me
day,
get my guitar out. Let me get my
yeah,
guitar out.
yeah,
Only $1 a
we'll
day
start like a
beats it.
PBS drive here or something.
Yeah.
But but no, even if most lodges did $1 a day,
But
that's
he's right. And that's why they do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
If I'm being
If I'm being frank,
yeah,
but you're not frank. You're just
I'm gonna make some people angry, but I'll say it. I I think we have a very beautiful Grand Lodge, very beautiful building, right?
mm,
And I think they
don't
always.
say it.
I'm going to. I think they
Don't
always.
say it.
So dues are what we pay our lodge, right, for the value they provide. And per capita is what we pay Grand Lodge for the value they provide. I think Grand Lodge sells itself too short, right? And I think if
Oh, okay. I agree.
Grand Lodge charged per capita that it needed to be successful, then the rest of the lodges would probably follow suit, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
as it is, Grand Lodge is basically asking for peanuts.
Yeah, per capita is going to have to go up soon.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no doubt.
The per capita should increase quite a bit, and so we were talking about like $1 a day. Um, I mean, most lodges should charge $1 a day. Grand Lodge should probably charge quite a bit more, but that's not up to me. I don't have any say in that, right? But
What's funny? Go ahead.
no, you go
I'll
ahead.
let you
It's fine.
finish.
What were you saying?
I was going to say what's funny though is that people complain about the Grandmaster has his purple ties that he sells for $1,000 and the lapel pin for $100. He's trying to raise money for the 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 library and museum, the Grand Lodge Library and Museum,
Mm-hmm.
and people say, "Oh, he's just trying to raise money for blah blah blah. Those ties are $1,000. Oh, only the rich can afford it. Blah blah blah." Well, you know what? He's trying to support the future of Grand Lodge so they don't have to raise the per capita. They're trying. Every one of these grandmasters are going in with their different programs to try to add to the library and museum so that we don't have to raise the per capita. But people aren't doing it. They're not spending the money. So we gotta increase the per capita. Look at all the Grand Lodges around the nation and around the world that have their Grand Lodge. They have a little bitty building the size of my living room, and they have a Grand Lodge in a hotel, a rented hotel room.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford it.
So my parents had traveled overseas a bit. I haven't gone overseas yet, but they went to the Grand Lodge of England and Grand Lodge of Ireland.
Oh, nice.
And Grand Lodge of Ireland, the most thing the biggest thing that stuck out to them was how small it was. Right? Of course, it's Ireland.
Yes, it's very small.
It's not a huge place, right? But like even the Grand Lodge of England, it's large, but it's not. We have something very special here in Texas. We have something very special, and we should be willing to. Grand Lodge. It shouldn't be on Grand Lodge to. It shouldn't be onto them to have to send out letters every year asking for donations or something to cover up the gap, right? Of course, I'm speaking on their behalf, so sue me. I apologize, but we should, as Mesa, should just be proud of our building and pony up to support it.
I agree. It's the same way with our with our lodges. We decide we pay cheap dues and then we let our buildings run to crap. But instead, Grand Lodge is doing their best not to let their building run to crap. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, but I just remember when I first became a Mason, started going to Grand Lodge. Like, do you remember before they had electric balloting and before they had air conditioning?
Oh my God.
Like that room got so ridiculously hot, and sitting there through the ballots was just ridiculous. And it's
Yeah.
improved so much. Like it's actually comfortable in there now, and the
Right.
voting's so much quicker. Like like
Right.
like we should be supportive of these things. Like they're trying to improve it. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're getting behind on our comments. So Austin White says some of the financial issues lodges are facing are from kicking the can down the road on building maintenance, poor budgeting instead of replacing, let's say, the HVAC. They nickel and dime themselves to a 20K HVAC replacement. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and I've said the exact same thing before. Like we want to kick the can down the road, hoping that some Masonic, basically, and the conspiracy nuts will love this, but they'll hope that like some Masonic messiah will just show up and join. That just has all the answers and will fix everything, right? But the problem is, even if this person did exist and he showed up, the past masters would say we never did it that way, and he'd leave out of frustration.
I'm
So
here. I'm
so
here. Don't
so
worry.
it's a question of, yeah, you wish. Where's your beard? But it's absolutely, we kick the can down the road, and then when things get bad, we get frustrated. I was at a stated meeting for a lodge, and I won't say what lodge I'd ever do, but they were looking at power washing uh, the lodge, the outside lodge, and the worshipful master. Granted, he's only been a master manager for like 2 years.
Oh my.
Yes, but he's like, I don't mind. I prefer to give the job to a mason as long as he's not profiting off the lodge. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
hold on a second, hold on a second. This guy has a business, right? And he uses that business to feed his family, so pay his bills, support whatever he's doing, right? And you're saying as long as he's not making a profit on that with the lodge, I'm okay with that. I mean, you take an obligation to not do that to a mason, right? You're
Right.
basically
Right.
asking him to do you a favor at a loss, and you're
That's
okay with
that's
that.
just insane.
It's
That's
so
insane.
dumb, so dumb. But
So yeah.
yeah, we have that mentality. Frank, back in.
Another. Well, let me. You didn't let me tie in on that.
Okay.
So just real quick, I've got a lodge in my district that pays $500 a month for the AC. $500 a month. It's a three-phase AC that should have been phased out years ago, and they never did do it.
Yeah.
So it would cost them $500 a month. So you're talking about $6,000 a year. $6,000 a year. It would cost them a one-time cost to replace that and not have that kind of a bill anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or even go to, you can buy mini splits. I've done it with some of my properties, and buy mini splits, and you can completely refrigerate that whole lodge with just 4 mini splits that would cost a total of $2,000, and they're just like maintenance free, and you can install them yourself. It's real easy, but easy peasy, and they're energy efficient. Remote control.
Yeah.
Give it to the junior warden. Make him in charge. But anyways, I just wanted to say it's that there's people making decisions that are not making decisions that they really should be on things like that. That you just got to push. You got to crunch the numbers.
Yeah.
Got to. If it was my house, I'd definitely put an energy efficient unit in. I wouldn't mess around with an old 3-phase that was barely kicking out any air.
Yeah, I agree. Frank Beckendorf said, "You don't help needy brothers." I'm not sure who he was talking to. I'd say if we're talking about dues,
I think that was sarcasm.
Yeah, I think yeah, and yeah, Freemasons have a right to make a living. I absolutely agree. And we as lodges should support that. But I mean,
you go with who's going to do the job.
If I'm a professional, and I know my lodge is going to ask me to either take on a job with no profit or at a loss, Why would I go to that lodge? Why would I
Right.
even put myself in a position to make myself available where they could ask me? Because then I'm going to say no and be the bad guy, right? Why would I put
Right.
myself in that position? Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Why would I go? But you don't help out needy
You
brothers.
know,
I
the
think he was talking about dues, and I agree. Like if a brother can't pay the dues, that's opportunity from Masonic charity right there.
Yeah, and if we charged enough with everybody else, then collectively we could help that brother with that charitable thing.
Yeah,
And if it was a long term issue, then we'd have to relook at it and see if maybe Freemasonry is not for them.
yep,
But if it's a short term thing, if we had enough money coming through the lodge with our dues, we could afford to help that brother, and it not be an argument or a conversation.
I
You
agree.
know.
So we do have a comment from Perfect the Game. I don't know if they're still around, but it says, "Why be a Mason?" I'd like to answer that. So we live in a world today where everything is fast paced, cheap and artificial, poorly made, easily replaceable, easily obtained. We live in a world of participation trophies, right? Where you don't have to do anything to earn anything, and as men, that really goes against our nature. Like we evolved to
We need rites of passage.
we need rites of passage, and we evolved to work and strive for things. Things were not. If something is easily obtained, it has no value. And so Freemasonry, in a world where everything is cheap and fast and easy, Freemasonry offers an alternative where things are not, where they should not be cheap, but it's not
Well,
fast and it's not easy, or at least it shouldn't be.
well, and it teaches moral values that we should be learning as we go along, to where we can make our world around us better,
Yeah,
so that it doesn't come across that way with our families and with our community.
yeah, yeah. Like when you say we take good men and make them better, it's kind of a. I used to say it's a cop out, but now I agree with it. Like we were saying earlier, Dennis, like our views change over time, but I think it's such a succinct in
Ooh, I got to
short.
look that one up.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
just
such a brief description of what we do. It doesn't really do justice to it. So yeah, we take good men and make them better. Well, how? Well, we put them through rites of passage. We challenge them. We encourage them to grow. We push them outside their comfort zone, and force them to grow as men and as leaders. And
Well, as a good example, when I first joined, I couldn't even look at the lodge when I was doing my catechism. I had to close my eyes and just sit there and do it. And now here I am on a podcast.
yeah,
I have brothers
it's
telling me
hard
all
to
the time.
imagine you ever being timid, Dennis. Let's be honest.
I know, right?
No, I
Well, I
was.
get things that I care about so much. I mess up, and I get scared to mess it up.
So I
And
was.
maybe has built that up in me.
I was very
Go ahead.
similar when I first joined. Like I've said this before on the podcast. Like I'm a very introverted person, and so the idea of talking in front of people, that was no, 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 never. Even in a small lodge, like a small rural lodge, like 15 people standing up and talking, no, absolutely not. But it pushed me out of my comfort zone, and not so far out of my comfort zone that I retreated. And so what would happen is they'd ask me to do something small, like, "Hey, be the Tyler tonight," or "Be the junior deacon." Small lines. I can memorize that and stand up and say it. And then before you know it, I'm the worshipful master, or I'm conferring degrees and giving lectures. Um,
And here we are now, leaders of you know several areas of thought. And yeah, we
yeah,
have now when we were timid, we would have never wanted to. But now, like, my wife came home the other day and said, "Oh, such and such said you need to run on the next ballot," and such said you need to run on the next ballot. People want what we have to offer.
yeah,
And Justin's the same way. They want him to be a part of the Lions Club. They want
mm-hmm,
him to be a part of the civil service. They want
yeah,
him at the council meetings.
yeah. So
You know,
that's
it's
funny you
it's the
say
same
that.
thing.
It's funny you say that because there was a pretty big overturn at the city council, and a lot of people resigned, including the mayor. and they came. One of the new council members, came to my door and asked me to be the mayor, the pro tem as the mayor, just out of the blue. And I mean, I've been going to council meetings, and I'm on the P&Z, but
Planning and zoning.
planning
Yeah.
and zoning committee.
I was chair of planning and zoning for some time. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, no, I don't have time for that right now. Like I normally would accept it, but it's too much drama at this point. We'll just put it that way. We'll put it nicely.
There is.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of
In small
drama
towns,
right
there
now in
is.
my little small town with the city and the council, and so I have to separate myself from it. But that would never happen if I wasn't a Freemason, and it's not because I was a Freemason, but the growth I undertook as a Freemason that encouraged me to be a leader in my community. That's what opened those doors. That's why people came to me
Well,
before they came to anybody else.
and really, that's what our Freemasonry teaches us, is to do that, is to step up and to be accounted for. And now going full on mayor of the city, that's, unless you're prepared to do that I don't recommend it for anybody.
No.
But
at this point, it's just
stepping
it's
up
just a
and
figurehead.
being a heard voice is more important than anything.
Absolutely.
And knowing that when you say something, it makes a difference in your county or your city, that's pretty special. And I like it that people, think of us that way.
Yeah.
Both of us, we're both in that position to where the members, they'll come to us and talk to us about what's going on and see, what our take is on it, even though we're not there to actually vote on it or, try to propagate any specific way. We're there for them in support, and they know that.
Yeah.
They know that.
Austin White says, do y'all think endowments are causing part of the per capita issue? At my lodge,
Austin, is this Ty White?
No, it says Austin White. I don't know if it's Ty White or not.
Ask him if it's Ty.
He's from Temple, Knob Creek. I don't know if you know him or not. But at my lodge, we encourage the endowed members to donate their per capita each year to support.
Do what? Say that again.
Do y'all think endowments are causing part of the per capita issue? At my lodge, we encourage endowed members to donate the per capita each year to support. He says negative, so I don't think he's Ty White.
Okay. No. We do send a letter out that requests that to all the endowed members.
Yeah,
we do that.
You can ask it. Do you think endowments are causing part of the per capita issue?
I don't think it's causing the issue, but I think
because as it is right now, because most lodges, we've touched on this before, most lodges really haven't touched their endowment costs since 1980. So most lodges are at $500 for endowment, or only recently changed it, right? So most are brothers endowed at $500. So as it is right now, they're getting about $25 back in returns from Grand Lodge, and turning around and paying $27.50. So if Grand Lodge really charged probably what it should, if we're being frank, for endowments, not for endowments, I'm sorry, for per capita. And I'm not going to say what the number is because I don't know. I know it needs to be way more than it is, but I don't know realistically what that should be. But if they were to start charging that, then all of a sudden you have lodges losing a lot of money on their endowed members. A lot.
Yeah.
And
we already have lodges losing a lot of money on their endowments.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But we're only exacerbating the problem.
But it would be worse. Yes.
Yes.
The endowments, but the endowments don't cause the problem of the per capita. The endowments cause the problem in the lodge because you're losing operating cash flow.
Yeah.
That's bottom line. It's a business term, and I apologize, but that's the only way you can put it. It's operating cash flow. So when your endowed membership, your $25 goes to, even if you're losing $2.50, the biggest loss is that other $75 that you're not getting from that member that would go to your lodge for its operating budget every year.
Yeah.
That's the real loss.
Yeah.
But it's even compounded because it doesn't even pay for the per capita.
Yeah.
So it's two different discussions, really. And in the perfect world, with the lodge run properly, the endowment is a good idea. But if the lodges are not run properly and set up financially properly, then it's just a it's a kill. It's a kill. It's a it's a
Yeah.
double tap.
If we put everything on autopilot, it's a double tap. You're absolutely right. And we put it on autopilot for so long because the endowment minimum has never been increased. And so most lodges have never, and I'm talking about from the Grand Lodge level. So most lodges at the individual level, local levels, have never increased their endowments. And so, yeah, that's a problem. The endowment program itself is not bad. It's really, I
Right.
mean, are there better investments out there? Frankly, yeah, probably. But if you, as a lodge, don't want to look for a financial advisor or anything like that, and you just want something where you can just put it on autopilot and you don't get a set amount back, regardless of what the market's doing, endowment's
Yeah.
not bad. But if you
Long
just leave
long
it,
term 5% is not bad.
yeah, but if you just
I
leave it
I
at,
didn't get that on CDs this
well, it's getting close now. But
year.
if you just look at if you just go off the minimum amount, it's terrible. It's a terrible idea. You have to increase your endowments, but that's a whole other
Right.
conversation. And I made a members only video about it. So if you're a
Right.
member, check it out because it will definitely be helpful to you. It's very concise, but reach out to me if you want more elaboration on that. Brother Stump says, "What would be a good amount for dues?" I feel like Dr. Evil when I do that. A good amount for dues. And then Frank, excuse me. And then Frank says, Frank Beckendorf, is different for every lodge to have to determine amounts. And yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And Frank answered the question for the other, what would be the good amount of dues? And that's the truth. It it should pay the bills of the
Yeah.
lodge and give you a little bit to put back.
Yeah.
So if you're it very minimum, it should be budgeted to pay all the bills of the lodge for the year and give 10% to put back into the lodge as a building fund so that you can maintain your building.
Yeah.
That's my basic take in
So
that.
if you're your own standalone building, that may be a lot more expensive than say a building that rents out as bottom floor, which is a lot less common now, but it used to be much more common because you may be getting income, or if you're an organization that owns rental property or something elsewhere, there's lots of factors to look at, and there's no. I mean, there's a cut and dry answer to it, but that amount will vary. The cut and dry answer is like Dennis was saying. Well, he didn't necessarily spell it out, but if you take your average annual cost, divide that by your number of dues paying members, that will tell you what your dues need to be. And so, hopefully, you're creating a balance sheet of some sort at the end of the year. Take that average over the last 3 years, divide that by your number of dues paying members, and that's what your dues should be. And so, if your balance sheet accounts for rental properties or any other kind of income your lodge has, before fundraising, we're not going to count fundraising, but like anything that we just know we're going to have coming in, divide that by your number of dues paying members.
And I would like to add something a little bit different. Just a little bit, just a smidgen.
No?
If you have that big bank account, like there's a few lodges that have 800,000 plus in a bank account that brothers gave years ago, and you can run your lodge on the interest and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Shame on you if you're doing that.
Yeah.
You should still be paying for your building to where that trust should be building as well, because you're not taking from that money.
Yeah.
But what's happening is there's people that are relying on the well leases that were left to their lodges there, and that's common in South Texas. We've got several that have well leases that go to the lodge, and they don't charge as much in dues or in endowments and stuff like that. They make it cheap and easy because they've got this fallback. But in my opinion, that's wrong. We should be paying for our own stuff, and then those should be building up. If we want to do anything, then take the interest from that and make that your scholarship money.
Yeah.
and give out your scholarships based on that, but keep that nest egg and pay for your own building, pay for your own hobby.
So
That's my
there's a
that's my feeling on it.
there's an old saying. It's not really a saying. It's just kind of a, but more lottery winners end up in poverty than being
Oh, that's a
successful.
fact.
Uh,
Yes.
don't let those kind of people in your lodge. Just don't. And
Yeah.
it's a jerk thing to say, and it's probably hard to tell, which is why you need a lengthier investigation process. But if someone can't be responsible with money, don't let them join your lodge and be in a position where they can make financial decisions.
If you want to understand what he just said, look up in Google, look up generational poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're dealing with in our lodges
Yeah.
today, because we have that same mentality.
Yeah, because they bring the
It's
generational poverty
generational
mentality. Yeah, and they think, well, now that the lodge is rich, I just don't have to pay as much. Or,
Yeah.
hey, I just won the lottery. I could quit my job, have everything I ever wanted, and never have to work again. And then 6 months later, they're in greater debt than they were before they won the lottery
Right.
because they're not being smart with their
Somebody
money.
like us, somebody like us, and probably you guys, if we won the lottery, we would think, okay, where can I invest that so that I can double, triple it, quadruple it? Where would I invest that? But some people, they just think about,
That might be
oh,
hard right now.
I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy that car. I'm going to buy that motorcycle, this
Yeah.
or that, whatever. Now, I understand paying off a house. I mean, that's real property.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense. Pay off your house or something. But yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Pay off things that create, that take away from your cash flow.
but if you
But
say, hey, I'm going to not pay off my house, but I'm going to buy a Range Rover and a pink one for my wife. And
yeah,
yeah,
I want some Air Jordan 1s.
yeah.
I want a new pair every week.
Where can I get a copy of Superman #1? I want some
Yeah,
fancy toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's and so look up generational poverty.
Yeah.
If more lodges would get away from, that ideal that, it's
Because poverty. Sorry, go ahead.
it goes down to, it's not my fault. This isn't my fault.
Generational
And
poverty
so-
and victim mentality go hand in hand.
Right. And so you do the minimum amount, saying, well, this wasn't my fault. Why should I be the one to pick up for what,
Yeah.
the situation we're in? Well, somebody's got to, or your lodge is going to demise.
But the
So-
last thing you want is someone with a poverty mentality having voting rights in your lodge, or worse, being
Yeah.
a leader in your lodge.
Oh, that's a fact.
Sorry.
That's a fact.
Sorry. It's just
Sorry.
you heard it here first, guys. Thank you. That's all. Later.
That's the whiskey talking. That's the whiskey talking.
So, Brother Stump, when I first started, it cost less than my Netflix subscription, and that seems crazy low to me. That's usually the norm, particularly with younger petitioners. I've noticed they expect to pay
Yes.
far more a year.
I expected to.
Yeah, me
I
too.
expected to.
Me too.
I watched National Treasure, and I'm thinking, dude, if they had this, they had to pay for it somehow.
Yep.
And it's not off $20 dues.
Yeah. Yeah. I was extremely surprised and disappointed. I went to not only that, I went to a lodge, and again, one of the lodges I mentioned earlier, where the worship master has been a master less than 2 years, and I was talking to him about degree fees, and he had no idea what I was talking about. He had no idea what I was talking about because
Wow.
someone else
Wow.
just paid his degree fees and never told him anything, or the lodge just
Wow.
absorbed the cost. One of the two. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah,
That makes me want to cry.
yeah, it's a bad state of
And I
affairs.
think that's the first place we should really increase our finances is by, we've talked about it in a different discussion on the 500, 500, and 500 dues, because then it sets the precedent that there's a cost to this. And if you really want it, if you can't afford it, save up for it. But if you really want it, this is what it costs.
Yeah.
And I would have paid whatever it took because I wanted to be a part of that association where people look at you and they think that you have some answers.
Well,
I didn't want.
we did just raise our dues at my one lodge I was talking about. And that hasn't come up yet, but we did just raise our dues. Not our dues. I'm sorry, our degree fees. So based on what you're talking about, it wasn't quite as much as you're talking about, but we did raise them, just based off what we crushed the numbers and looked at what we give people throughout their degrees, and bake that into the cost.
When I went in as master, we immediately raised the dues fees, and the degree fees, but they haven't changed since.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
I
And
agree.
you can't tell people any different. They say, "Well, it's hard now." Well,
It's always been
there's
hard.
always going to be hard.
It's like I was
There's
saying.
always something.
It's like I was saying. It's exactly like I was saying. You'll always find some reason not to do it. There's always some
If you
reason.
can't afford,
There's always some
yeah, if you,
disaster around the corner or something where, especially for millennials, like, dude, we've been dealing with the end of the world since 2000, since 1999, right?
right,
And so it's
right.
always been one thing after another. We're numb to it. But I mean, you can always come up with some reason why you can't do something. Stop
If
coming
you
up with
can't
a reason.
afford to, if you can't afford to drive to lodge, or if you can't afford to drive around your district or whatever, maybe it's time to get rid of your 4x4 pickup and buy a Hyundai.
Get you a Honda Civic.
You don't have anything in the bed of that truck anyways. So why are you doing that? Just for prestige? Wouldn't you be more proud if your lodge looked more beautiful and y'all had a better presence in the community?
Yeah,
I don't know. Call me silly.
silly. You're silly.
Speaking of buying stuff, y'all like this swag? This is one of my other square image hats.
Yeah, show us
This
that
is
hat. That's
the,
a pretty sweet. I'm not huge on camo anymore, but I thought that was pretty cool when I saw it.
well, the Laredo is just a square and compass up here, but it has the skull and bones in the back. This one is this is the skull and bones in the front, and it has level up in the back. But it's you see my square image logo. That's my branded logo. But this is just saying. I mean, I've got them.
Is
We're
that
selling them.
is that the model name, the Laredo?
The other model is it's called
need-
the Laredo.
you need to get
I'll
the-
go get one real quick.
You need to get
I'll go get one.
We need to get a copy of the Laredo to our favorite Laredo Mason.
He's got one. He made a post
Oh, did he?
saying how much he loved it.
I didn't
Yeah.
see it. I was gonna say, as much as
Yeah,
he's on Facebook, he needs to represent.
Yeah, I sent him one with I actually sent him 3 so that he would have one and then he could sell 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's an awesome hat, and I'm doing more of them like this. And these are all flex fit hats.
Yeah. I'm not
You
a,
know,
I'm
and
not a,
they
I'm not a big hugging dude or anything like that, but Ruben is one of the few guys I'll just come up and
Dude,
just
Ruben,
blindly
I'll
hug
kiss
the
him
hell
on.
crap out of him.
Yeah,
I love that dude. I love him.
I'll kiss him on the lips. I love him.
I bet you.
But here, here's the Laredo, and I made it specifically for him. He said, "Well, could you do this?" He just said, "Could you do this?" And I said, "Huh, I could." And so this is called the Laredo. I would call it the Reuben, but there's a sandwich named after him already, so I
Show
didn't
me
want to
again.
blow it. I didn't want to really blow up his ego.
What's the difference between that and what you have on?
This one has the skull and bones right here.
Oh, I see.
This
Why
one
is there a
has.
skull and bones? What does that have to do with Freemasonry? You heretic.
I'm a rebel.
You
I'm a rebel without a cause. I am the James Dean of Freemasonry.
Wow. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah. In jealousy? Is that it?
Jealousy.
All our viewers know it. Tell them, viewers, you know it.
So Frank Beckendorf says my endowment in 2007 was $1,000. Well, first of all,
And that's awesome. That was where it should have been.
yeah. Well, probably higher, but I mean, 2007 for it to be 1,000 is really good. I mean,
For 2007.
yeah.
And you can also add $100 increments at this point.
Yeah.
You can add to your endowment in $100 increments. So it every year, if you want to, contribute just a little bit more, you can.
Frank says, my question too. I'm not sure what question we just asked. What question did we ask a minute ago? You lost me, Frank. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Squirrel.
Here,
I'm sorry, Frank. We're a little lost.
Yeah.
I got off on my little tangent. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens.
But we have the Masonic improvement hats as well, and two of them are gone now. Actually, three, because I'm giving one away to somebody if we can get a hold of them. But actually four, because I got to give one to Justin. But
Justin who?
Mr. Jones and me.
Oh my gosh.
You like that?
No.
I know you like it.
No.
You got excited. But we have Masonic improvement hats and shirts and all kinds of cool swag. We'll have it at Grand Lodge. I have it now. If you want to purchase something from us, go ahead and message us. I'm working on the website, but go ahead and message Masonic Improvement, and then we'll make sure and do that, and we'll talk about shipping. Then it's like the hats are 25 plus shipping. The polos are 40 and 60 plus shipping, but we'll talk about that. I may make them both 40 in shipping for now, just because it's the first run, but we'll see. But I only have the hats are a flex fit, and if you got a fat head, it's not going to work. But the shirts right now are just the large and the extra large. This is first run stuff. This is first gen stuff. So if you get something now, you have one of the original first generation Masonic improvement swag.
It'll never be the same. It'll never be the same. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take what we have and change it. Like that's first gen, like Dennis has said. So I mean, you get a copy of it and see what you like, what you don't like, and you report back and you make small changes. So it'll never be exactly like it is today.
Right. So that's how I run this. That's why I do have the different types of hats and stuff, because we're constantly looking at what our brothers like.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm going to make a notched hat. I didn't even hear about the notched hat until earlier this week.
Notched
hat? Yeah, it's for people with big square sunglasses. It doesn't hit the hat right here. It's weird. I never even heard of it. I'm making a notched hat.
Okay.
It'll be a regular Masonic hat, but there's going to be a notched hat out there.
I didn't know that was a thing.
We'll see how that goes. Yeah, right. So, anyways, that's kind of cool. But I was real proud of the lodge, doing that this past week, and several brothers came up afterwards and
doing what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Going back to the square, the positive of finances.
Wow, going way back.
We had several brothers, come up afterwards and volunteer to swipe their card right there and then,
mm-hmm.
and add to it to contribute. So I mean, it's a good thing, guys. There's no reason we shouldn't be taking advantage of the technology out there. And the crazy thing.
So at that point, why not just raise your dues, though?
Well, yeah. Guess what's coming next?
So here's the thing. I know of a lodge. The Worship Master has been paying to have the meals catered for every stated meeting and degree. Like he's been paying out of his own pocket.
Yeah, I know a couple of lodges like that.
And he was having the lodge pay for it until a few people threw a fit. And so he just paid for it out of his own pocket. Like good food. And people were discussing about raising dues. And people were saying we need to be all on the level. Well, what level are you talking about? What level are you talking about? Because if you're talking about the Worship Master's level, the dues are probably higher than we're talking about right now. because he's spent thousands of dollars already this year, just feeding you.
Right.
Thousands, like
Right.
hundreds of dollars every meeting, and you're putting $60 in the kitty. So is that on the level? Is that on the level? No, no. People
$60 combined.
combined.
$60 combined. Yeah.
When people talk about the level, they talk about down here, right? They want the least common denominator. The
Yeah.
least common denominator. No,
They're talking about sea level. That's
sea level. Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly what it is. You're absolutely right. And why are we dragging ourselves down to that level?
Because of who it's the people we let in.
Instead of raising ourselves up. Yeah, we should be taking people that want to raise themselves up,
yeah,
and raise them up. But instead, we're allowing people that want to be at the bottom level drag us down.
If we had had this mentality since 1950, we would have lost a lot of lodges already. But we would be on the uptick because the lodges that survived would be higher quality, and they would attract
the attrition people. Would have already happened.
They would be attractive. As it is, we have made this long, prolonged experience for everybody, or we've let people in, and now and frankly, man, this is a terrible jerk thing to say. Sometimes you can't get anything accomplished until there's a few Masonic funerals. And when you let people that really shouldn't be Masons into fraternity, you push that timeline back even further.
Yeah. You know what's really sad is that there's people that are upset with this this current Grand Master, and I am not. I love the man. I love him, and I'll support everything that he's done, till the day I die, because so much has been done for this grand jurisdiction this year.
He's created such positive.
It makes it hard for anybody else to. Yeah.
Well, what's the word I'm looking for? Positive trends and patterns that we can identify as an organization have a positive influence on Freemasonry in Texas. So I look forward to seeing that being propagated with future Grand Masters who will look at the data and continue to implement things like that.
But guess what? People are going to start seeing. They're going to start seeing lodges close.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen, and it's gonna get very serious. And I can't say that it's for the bad, but instead of focusing on the positive trends that we're going on right now, we're fixing to start looking at just getting rid of what's not working.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to continue to way lodges.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned this in the last live we did, based off the Facebook conversations, because I mentioned we need to raise our dues and stop being cheap and being more rigorous about our investigation process. And one of the brothers said, well, there's other ways there's other approaches, there's other things you can do. And my response was, well, time will tell. Time will tell. Because those lodges that are still implementing bad practices are on their way out. And it's, excuse me, 1 second. And they've been on their way out for 20, 30 years. But it's at that point now where it's all coming to a head for these lodges. Like, their buildings are gross. Their members have no clue what the hell they're doing. Bad leadership, bad food, low dues, bad buildings, bad ritual, bad degrees. It's all coming to a head. It's all built up. And they're going to be merging or demising. And there's just no...
What makes me sad... Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's no way around it at this point.
What makes me sad is that I've seen brothers and I've seen lodges that have made significant changes to their lodges and really tried to step it up on the inside, clean it up, redo everything, and they're working on the outside now, trying to get the roofs done and stuff like that. But I'm listening to them, and I'm listening closely, and they're still of the opinion they want people to join, they're not making any effort to do that. They're just still doing the same thing. They're just still showing up at the stated meeting and going away. They still have their fish fry that people will buy a bunch of tickets for, but they show no interest in the lodge over those tickets. They still have a sign sitting outside, one of those old kind that you put the letters in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an old one and nasty, and it should go away because it looks so bad. But they demonstrate that poverty look and feel still,
Yeah.
even though they've done so much to try and change everything inside. And then nobody that they know cares to join. So why are they not doing stuff that makes people want to join? I, we've gained several members in our lodge because of the way I carry myself in the community and the way other people have carried themselves in the community. They want it, they're attracted to join.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing anything for anybody else and you're just doing the old same old,
Yeah. Like one of my
then
lodges, there's a brother. It's a small lodge, so I say a brother, and it's really all it takes to get anything. But like he thinks it's important to go to like the nursing home and hand out roses to the women there or something, which is great. I mean, I guess as Masons, that's probably a nice thing to do. Is that going to get you
that is a
membership?
nice thing to do.
Is that going to improve the fraternity? No, no. Should the lodge pay for that? No. But if you as a person,
Right.
if you as a person feel inclined to do it, by all means do so.
Well, I know a lodge that does something similar. They have an ice cream day, and they take ice cream to the local nursing home and do ice cream. But we've never from what I've seen, I haven't seen one new member come out of that after doing it for years.
Yeah.
And is it a nice thing to do? Sure it is. Sure it is. But if you're doing it for marketing purposes or to get membership, that's not how we get members.
Yeah.
We get members by people recognizing us as individuals. Um, and
If you want to do something like that, you know what organization you should do that through? Probably your church or something.
or do it, or if you're going to have an ice cream day, have it for the brownies or for the Cub Scouts or something like that.
Yeah.
To where you see young dads, young dads are bringing their kids to the event to have ice cream day or whatever, and then people see what you're doing. People that would make a difference see what you're doing instead of people that those people are left in the nursing home and forgotten about to begin with. And it's sad, and yeah, that's a noble thing to go and present those roses. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
deter that, but
So we have a brother, and he was at like two of the OLTs. Very tall, Scandinavian brother. Do you know who I'm talking about?
mhm.
Do you know his name?
He's not Scandinavian. He's Swedish.
Swedish. Well, okay, Swedish. Do you know his name?
Yes.
What is his name?
I'm not gonna say it online. He may not want his name
Okay.
online.
Okay. Well, he is commenting on the chat.
Are you talking about Mott's?
Mott's? Yes, Mott's. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
I can never.
He's the only brother that can tell you in perfect English, and you never understand what he's saying. We love you, Mott.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Had the privilege of
you're
meeting
here.
him, but he says if you lose interest and not capable to work up your organization, you're soon out of business. It may be best to consolidate the stronger ones. Yeah, absolutely. And going to what you're saying, I think that a lot of this problem comes from these dual memberships.
Yes.
It's exactly like what I was talking about earlier with the. I don't know if you're here, but I was talking about a lodge in one of my districts that they basically wanted to demise, and they sent out the notices, and a whole bunch of people came out of the woodwork and voted to not demise, and then they ended up demising anyway because none of these people that showed up would actually continue to show up and support the organization or anything like that. So yeah, it's It's if you can get rid of the you can't get rid, but if you could look past the plural memberships that are keeping these lodges artificially on life support and say, look,
Right.
none of these people. If you go to a lodge and 90% of them are familiar faces that you see at every lodge throughout the rest of your
In your
district,
district.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know they don't live in that town, that lodge should probably demise or merge,
Right.
just straight up.
And the bad thing is that they the Masons that are doing that are taking their own agenda to each one of these lodges
Hmm.
and saying, this is the cookie cutter. We're here to save you. This is the cookie cutter. And yet nothing's being saved. Nothing at all.
And then when you try to raise
It,
dues at your lodge, say, well, I'm already paying $500 a
yeah,
year to be a member of all these lodges.
exactly.
Well, dang,
Exactly.
pay $500 here and merge.
Right. Right. I agree.
Frank says, oh, the mention of Skull and Bones. And then he says, the question concerns Skull and Bones. I'm not sure what question, Frank. But yeah, Skull and Bones. Speaking of, yeah. So I won't go into. I won't throw any lodges under the bus. But there was a brother from a lodge here that has a very nice commandery chamber. We won't call it a chamber of reflection, but they definitely
Mm-hmm.
have a room of self evaluation.
Well,
Very
the
nice.
chamber,
A
actually,
rose room.
in Commandery, it is a chamber of reflection.
No, no, no,
Or did they
no,
change the
no,
name?
no, no, no.
Huh.
We just don't say that. We don't use that.
Oh.
We don't have to use that word.
Oh.
Oh, so he wants to say what does it what does the skull and bones have to do with Freemasonry? That's Frank.
Okay, Frank. I can,
Go ahead by all means.
I told I spoke about this uh with my wife's family today, as a matter of fact. And the simple fact is that Freemasonry reminds us that we are going to die. Everyone here on earth is going to die, and that we should make the most of our time with what we have available to us before we die, and we should be ready, not only financially but mentally and spiritually. And that's what Freemasonry is supposed to do, is to teach you how to do that, and not by religion, but by understanding the all of the all of the oh my goodness, I just had a brain fart. All of the thoughts and from the beginning of time, from the ancients, we study the ancients so that we can have a better grasp on where we are today and where we're going in life before we die. So simple as that. We're gonna die. We're gonna die. It's impending.
He says, but should you plaster pictures of skull and bones all over things?
Why not?
I don't know. That's what he's asking.
It creates a
He's
mystique.
asking you. I
It
know that
creates a mystique. Why not?
the Republic of Texas seal had the skull and bones on it, and you can still
Yeah.
see it at Grand Lodge.
Yeah.
They usually try to
You
hide
can,
it. They usually try to hide it behind something. It's gory. He says because it's gory.
I know, right? Well, it's a stigmatism that, and so now you're letting the secular world tell you that, us knowing that we're going to die, and understanding that, coming to terms with that, um so we should let the secular world tell us that, we can't do that. And it's a personal thing. Not everybody has to have the skull and bones on there. We don't. For our Masonic improvement sign, we have the Ouroboros. We have the eternity symbol of the snake. That's what that is. It's an eternity symbol.
Keep rolling. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. But ultimately, the skull and bones in today's age creates a mystique that um, that Freemasonry offers. If you're actually if we are actually doing Freemasonry the way Freemasonry was intended to be done, which is actually learning and educating ourselves on the ancients and what the philosophies of the day were, and all the way, actually not just of the day but all through time. So our responsibility as Masons is to educate ourselves as to what's been happening from the very beginning of time to now, and applying those principles to better our lives. So again, since Justin didn't hear that, our reason for Freemasonry is we're supposed to be educating ourselves on what the ancients, from the education from the ancients to today, taking the principles of all this knowledge and applying it so that we can have our best self today, and we can have our best life for our community. We can contribute to our community in the best way that we can, taking that knowledge and making logical and educated decisions, and not just based off of feelings or whatever. And the skull just reminds us that it's coming. It's going to come. There's no doubt about it. It's going to come.
Frank says,
and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, and that's okay.
Frank says, I think it scares people about Masonry. I mean, if it scares them,
yeah, then I don't care.
Well, sure. Frankly,
if you're scared of death, then
they wouldn't make it past. They won't make it past the third degree anyway.
Right.
So let them be scared, in my opinion. It's not for everybody, and that's okay. So Matt says Right Marshal Yates is correct. We should take a screenshot of that because it's the first time you've been right about anything. That is one reason awesome. I am happy to have seen Swedish Rite.
Yeah.
Do you know much about Swedish Rite, Dennis?
Yes.
Tell me, elaborate what he's talking about.
I cannot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The Swedish Rite is actually, it's a very strict rite, and it's not allowed for everybody. It's not as easy to get into like these appendant bodies or whatever. You generally have to go to Sweden and do the degrees on site and do it, and it's years in the process. Mats is only like a 9th degree Swedish Rite Mason at this time, because he's been doing it for so long, because they take it so seriously.
Wow.
There are real truths.
Have you done any?
No, I want to.
Mats,
I want to go.
Can you get us in? Get us in, Mats.
He can get us in. We just got to travel over.
Just to Sweden? I mean, that's like a.
That's it.
That's like a day trip.
That's it. It's a day trip, man. Road trip. I'll bring the beer nuts.
The beer nuts.
But
I'll bring the beer and you're nuts. So I mean, you're already nuts.
Not everybody. So I don't want to dishearten you, Frank, on how I feel about it. Not everybody has to, flaunt the skull and bones or whatever. But in most rites throughout the world, in most lodges in Freemasonry, they're actually trying to scare you before you join. They're trying to make you truly think about what you're doing and the commitments you're making before you join. That's why they have the chamber of reflection, so that you know that this is something that is extremely serious. This is something that is that your commitments are real commitments, not just an obligation that you can if you feel like it. You don't have to if you don't feel like it. Always with an out. When I was taught the work, they said, "Oh, that you say this, but you notice you have this out right here." Not in the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, when you take that obligation, it's a serious obligation that you're held to, and they hope that you're afraid enough to leave before you join. as opposed to joining and then weakening their fraternity. And that's a truth. That's the truth. And I'm not saying that Skull and Bones, going all over everything is for everybody, but I think that we should stop running away from it in our lodges,
Mm-hmm.
because it is the reason why we're there, because we should be doing what we can before we die, and we should take it more seriously. And obviously people don't take it seriously, or they would pay more to protect what they're, if they were learning those things, they would understand why they needed to pay more to protect that. I'm sorry, Frank. I got on a tangent and I apologize, but I truly do feel that way.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just waiting on that Masonic improvement death whistle.
Ooh, we can get one.
One? I don't want to share one with you. I want one.
Well, I want a true Aztec death whistle that's made out of a true skull that makes the sound. And maybe I can engrave. I've got an engraver. I can engrave that in the skull. I can engrave our symbol on the skull of it. But I want a true one. I want a real one. I want a real skull.
Man, I just noticed my emblem's been backwards this whole time. Why does no one say anything? Hold on, let me fix that.
It looks right. It looks right to me.
The word. What do you mean it looks right? The words are literally backwards. Is it not backwards for you?
No.
What? It's backwards.
No.
You're messing with me.
Do
Hold
it.
on.
I'm serious, and ask everybody else.
There.
It didn't change here.
Did it? Okay, here we go.
Mm-mm.
There we go.
It's all in your own head.
That's right. Now that's right. No one has said anything. I haven't been looking at it.
It wasn't backwards on our screen. It was only on your screen.
It's literally on the same screen. I'm looking on Zoom. I had it mirrored. I went on Zoom and fixed it, so it was on Zoom.
Okay, guys, tell him. Because yours looked exactly like mine, except yours was white and mine was black.
No, all the comments are saying you're crazy. We already knew that.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah. Speaking of which, it's been an hour and 42 minutes. I think it's been a good live. I think we should wrap it up.
It has been a good live. Is Frank still there?
Yes.
So I didn't run him off. Thank you for
Uh,
hanging in there with us, Frank.
he says understood. He didn't totally agree with you, but understood.
I know not everybody totally agrees. And that's cool. That's the beauty of Freemasonry, right? That's why we do this. So that we can all just talk about these different thoughts and ideas and get them out there.
Yeah.
Brothers should be able to talk about any discussion and walk away still brothers, and not, just blowing up and saying, that's not how I feel.
It's not how we
It's
used
not
to do it.
It's not propane accessories.
That's no.
I know that was a bad
That
one.
was bad.
I am so out of practice.
I'm
I used to be so good at it.
I'm gonna delete this entire video now. I'm so embarrassed by what you just did.
I know you ought to. But, that's the beauty of Freemasonry, and that's really what keeps Justin and I coming back.
What, propane?
And propane accessories.
Mm.
Don't forget those. Because we can have differing opinions and talk about things. And that's why I love the lives myself, because we get the questions and the discussions of our brothers that may not always agree with us.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's cool.
Makes for good discussions.
Absolutely.
You got any final thoughts, Dennis?
Final thoughts. No matter if you feel that the skull and bones are appropriate in Freemasonry or not, or the Ouroboros or whatever, Freemasonry was made to enhance our lives, to make us more intelligent, more knowledgeable in our mind and spirit, because whatever we're learning here, we internalize and take it in and spiritualize, and then so we can take it out to the world. So no matter what camp you sit in, let's keep it alive. This has been a show on finance. Let's keep the camps alive. Let's keep them going. Let's take those to our brethren. Let's know how the process works to be able to make it successful, and to have those votes and make them count, and not let one person come in and change something that was already voted on. That's just, to me, that's just crazy. I can't believe that happened. But I've seen it happen in other lodges, so it's not something that's uncommon.
Well,
we shouldn't allow that to happen.
If it needed to go back and be done the proper way, I acknowledge that it is what it is. It is what it is.
Proper procedures, yes, but it doesn't need to be pushed out so far out that it.
Yeah, that's for other reasons.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's just being petty and being spiteful because you weren't around and people made decisions you didn't like, and that. Let's keep that crap out of Freemasonry. Let's stop being petty.
Yeah.
But here's my, and that's my final thought on our show. But here's my promo for the next show on Wednesday. This Wednesday, we are recording with Paul Reyna, and he is one of the foremost experts in esoteric studies, and I am so stoked, and I need to do a lot of reading, so I'm ready, because he knows way more than he's already forgotten more than I'll ever know on esoteric. I mean, this guy is sharp.
Yeah.
This guy is sharp, and we love him, and I can't wait to have him on the show. I'm really excited about this one because we haven't really dug real deep into esoteric on our show. So this will be our first real deep dive into the esoteric nature of Freemasonry, and I can't wait. So I think anyone who doesn't think that they're getting what they should get out of Freemasonry should definitely watch that show. And any brother who is dead set on thinking that his Freemasonry is perfect should watch that show, because I doubt that many of us have experienced what we're going to talk about on this show of esoteric studies. Because although it can be found in the Blue Lodge, it is very, very difficult unless you're studying outside of the Blue Lodge, if that makes sense.
No.
Unless you study something else and then you can put the two and two together, you would never know it. Because the brothers that are teaching the work, they're not the ones that are going to be able to answer that question.
They're not.
Sorry, Justin.
I'm supporting you, man. But speaking, not to take away from the rest, but speaking of Brother Reyna, which I'm also looking forward to, I have noticed that no one ever really asks us to reach out to anybody, right? Like there's so many good Masonic
speakers
and figureheads, notable Masons out there. No one ever says, "Hey, why don't you talk to what's his name?" or something like that. And so we're open.
That's an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to, like, if you have someone that you want to hear from, let us know. Because I listen to other podcasts and like, man, that's a really interesting person that they have on there. I never really thought to reach out to them, but if you hear someone on another podcast or you just know someone that'd be interesting, let us know and we'll reach out to them and try to get them on the show. There's no guarantees because people are busy and they just might not want to be on the show for whatever reason. But Let
And
us.
sometimes it just takes time. You
Yeah.
know, we're this has been a show long in the waiting, and we've got a couple other people that have said that they want to be on the show that we just haven't been able to carve out the time for yet. So it's just one of those things that sometimes it takes time. But man, if y'all got suggestions, let us know on, send us messages in Messenger on
Yeah.
Facebook.
So someone, a viewer named Dan. That's all we got. Dan. Do y'all know Manly P. Hall? Dennis, Dennis, you need to make that happen. You need to get Manly P. Hall on here for an interview.
You mean
Channel him.
you mean this
Channel him. Get
this
him on
man
here.
this manly P Hall?
What?
That manly P Hall, you see that
Yes.
book that's
No,
right here,
the other famous Manly P. Hall Mason.
the one that we're reading
No,
that I'm reading.
this Manly P. Hall. They wrote the good version of the book.
That's funny. We actually read this stuff. That's what's funny.
Yeah, we both got it like right there.
This is a $2 book for me, and if anybody knows me, if it's got a $2 bill in it, that means that when I die, that my family is supposed to keep this book, and it's supposed to go be handed down.
See, this is a $3 book for me. So not saying it's better, but I mean, $2 versus $3, we can definitely see where the quality's at.
But I have Masons in mind. You don't?
You ever seen a $3 bill?
No, I've never seen a
Well,
$3
it's
bill.
definitely got Masons in it. We'll just say that.
Not a legitimate,
Huh?
not a legitimate one.
A legitimate? You haven't seen a legitimate $3 bill?
Is it a Confederate $3 bill?
What? Absolutely not. I'll keep that garbage around here. It's a one of those Illuminati $3 bills that you only get when you become a high ranked Mason.
That money, yeah, that money that you get when you hit a certain level. Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't
It
seen
finally
that
starts
kind of
paying
money.
back to you. Yeah,
Yeah, in $3 income.
3, 5, and 7.
Nice. Yes, yes, awesome, brothers. If you feel like you're not getting the Freemasonry that you're looking for, let us know. We know lodges all over the area that can fit your needs.
Yep.
If you shouldn't leave Freemasonry over a few differences in opinions. We all have differences in opinions, but I'm sure that there's a lodge out there that has the same vision as you, and that's the important thing, is that we have the same vision in our lodge to be able to move forward and progress in our lodge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the problem with what happened with your lodge here recently. That brother came in, he wasn't part of the vision.
No,
And
no, that's
so
what I'm saying.
because
Like he wasn't there
because
for.
he wasn't, yeah, because he wasn't, he fucked it all.
Yep.
But if you're part of the vision, you want to see everything increase and everything be better. And so if you're not getting that in your lodge, let us know. We'll help you find the lodge, that'll help you get there. We're not here to nominate you to a lodge. We are not a lodge or a grand lodge. We are
Nor do we represent a lodge or grand lodge.
We are a show. We're a podcast. We are two Masons that belong to lodges, and we belong to appendant bodies and different, esoteric-minded groups. But we do not represent any of them. We represent ourselves.
I'm here to educate.
And we're not gonna.
I'm here to educate, and Dennis is here to entertain.
That's right. And I'm not gonna tell anybody to let you in the door. So find a lodge close to you. If you're not a member, find a lodge close to you and get in. If you need help finding one, we can do that. But otherwise, we're not gonna, recommend you at all because we don't know you. Just putting it out there, plain and simple.
Man, someone responded to one of our videos. I don't know if you were there or not, but they had got downvoted to get in. And they wanted one of us to reach out to their secretary and find out why. It's like, dude, No one cares who we are. They're not gonna tell us anything.
Right.
We're just two
Yeah.
random. We're just two random Masons. Well, one random
Well,
Mason and a district deputy, but that'll be over soon. So
but they care who we are. But I tell you this: if you're downvoted in that lodge, there's a reason, and whether it's your fault or their fault, I don't know, and I'm not there to decide that. So
it's their
you
club.
just have to wait. You just have to wait your time,
Yep.
and then repetition.
It's their clubhouse.
And yeah, that's right. So if you don't get voted in, then maybe you need to wait your time. And then if you're still interested, if you think you want to apply to that specific one, repetition or go to a different lodge and petition there.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. I haven't agreed with all the votes in my lodge every time either. But I'm not going to buck the system. It's a good system. If we do it properly, we guard the West Gate. That's important. That's important. Yeah. But we can help you find the Freemasonry that you're looking for, whether it be appendant bodies or lodges or people. Like he said, tell us who you want to hear from, because we know a lot of people. We know a lot of people.
And if we don't know them, we will.
We need to go ahead and have our brothers down in or over in Mexico on the show as well. After Paul, I think I want to set up our brothers in Mexico to come on.
Yeah.
Talk about Freemasonry. Talk about Freemasonry.
We could probably do one or two in December, but then January is gonna be pretty crazy. So we'll just
yeah,
see.
We got to get. Yeah, I need to talk to Most Worshipful also and see if he'll come back on, and we'll do a wrap up of his year.
That'd be good.
And then see if our Deputy Grand Master would like to come on and say a hello to our Freemasons all across the world, and
Are you gonna
we'll see if that happens. I will.
Okay.
I will.
All right. Appreciate that.
I ain't scared.
No.
Do you want to?
Absolutely. No, I don't. No. No. So I'll let you handle that. I'm very intimidated, so I'll let you do it.
I think that it's good for the viewers to be able to know what's happening in Freemasonry.
I agree.
And so let's get him on and talk about the good stuff that he plans on doing. There's some cool stuff coming, but there's differences. It's a give and take. It's a give and take. A give and take.
Yeah.
Just like the lodge, we all have our 1 year to be master, and we all want to accomplish certain things, and so he's got his 1 year to do what he can do. Let's hope that it improves our Freemasonry.
Yep. All right, so
I hope that. I
also hope so. I hope so. Other than that, I don't really have anything to add. I will say that we have about 5 viewers right now. The video only has 2 likes, and we've had 42 views. So if you're liking,
wow.
Yeah. So my point is, if you're viewing, please do us a favor and be sure to give us a like. And if you don't subscribe, please be sure to do that as well, because both of those things help with the algorithm. Leave a comment on the video. Just really appreciate everybody watching and participating. And we'll look forward to the next live next week.
Absolutely. And
what?
Don't forget that we do have our memberships tiers now that you can do through YouTube.
Yeah.
And also, if you are interested in I can each item that we have. I've broken it down to where we have a base shipping cost for each thing.
You got really choppy. Didn't hear what you said.
Okay. Yeah, my internet is going south for some reason. Okay, so Texas. Real quick. I know that's the problem. Real quick, swag. If you want Masonic Improvement swag, let us know in Messenger, and I will give you the price and the price of shipping. I've now have the set prices for shipping through USPS, and we can do that. And if you're Army, military, overseas, or whatever, I can still get it to you through the same process, so it's not a big deal. If it's outside of the country, then we'll have to do something else. We'll have to relook at shipping or whatever. But within the country, it's all the same. So give me a holler. I'll give you the prices and get you some swag because we got it. And I'm ready to
Swag is
make
in
some
the
more.
bag.
I'm ready to make some more.
Dan says, "Do we always do it on Sunday? The lives, usually on Sundays. I think last week was like on a Friday.
Yeah, last time was on a Friday, but the time before that was on a Sunday. It's been pretty successful. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think we usually do Sundays. We usually try to stick to that. But all right, that said, I think it's time to wrap it up.
brothers, thank you. Keep it between the points.